Welcome to the MadHouse podcast, a safe place where we discuss the things that have been on our mind. So sit back, relax, as we dive deep down into the rabbit hole to see how far it goes.
And we here.
All right.
You ready?
I am ready, man. I think we got a good little topic to talk about today.
It's one of those topics that's gonna be it's gonna be different because a lot of people don't want to address certain issues, and I think you were thinking on this topic, and I was kind of thinking on it, and I think we had different ways that it resonated with us. Like me, it hit a little bit different because I felt it from a different point of view than you have, and I think it's just through life experiences. But what do you got us talking about today?
So today we're gonna be talking about. I'm gonna do my best to try to look at the camera when I'm talking sometimes, because I want you guys to feel like I'm addressing you and stuff. But I'm gonna look at him because this is really just a conversation between us. But this is really a conversation between all of us.
So we try to reach into the camera a little bit, but it would be awkward if we were like staring on here and trying to talk to each other. It'd be kind of weird.
So I will try to address the camera, but I'm also so this is a conversation between us that we're all a part of. So today we're gonna be talking about racial imposter syndrome. So, and I can speak on that more so from the viewpoint of a mixed person, and this is a topic I think everybody can relate to. So racial imposter syndrome is the idea of feeling like a fraud and not being enough of something, or whatever, race or culture you are, not being enough of something. Like, so say if you're black, it's like you're not black enough, or you're not Hispanic enough, or if you've got, obviously, like, me and him, we've got two cultures, like we're teetering that line, trying to find this happy medium between the Hispanic culture and the African American culture. So there's just a lot that goes into this. So I've addressed. I'm gonna get to the conversation. So I have been thinking about this quite a bit lately. So I'm reading a book. I started a little book club. Me and my buddies.
Which I got a question, because you reading a book. I was like, when you told me you started a book club, I was like,
it's not.
I was thinking about you want some real wives stuff?
It's not
wrong.
It's not a book club per se. It's just like there's a book. It's called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Yeah. And I wanted to read the book, but I also wanted to read the book with some of my friends. So I reached out to some friends. I was like, hey, do y'all want to read this book with me? And they were like, yeah. So we have a little group. It's almost like a little club, and we're doing reading. So it's a reading book club. But
real quick. We do it live here, sister.
Hi.
Oh, there she is. There you go. Oh. So we started like a little club, and as I was reading through the book, I was kind of reading through some of the first chapters, and he brought up this topic of he basically brought up the topic of not being enough, because, and I'll give a quick little context. So he grew up here in Dallas, Texas. So, but he didn't grow up like me and you grew up. He grew up in like a neighborhood that has affluency. Yeah. Like in a more affluent neighborhood. So he didn't have to necessarily deal with most of the things that me and you had to deal with. He dealt with them on a different level. So he grew up around a lot of white people. So he talks a little bit about growing up around white people and not really being around black people or understanding what it meant to be black. And he never got that understanding until he got to college, until he got around the people. And then that's when he really started to understand what it meant to be black. And then I started to look up some articles about, because I was just thinking about it, and I came across racial imposter syndrome, and then I read an article, I think it's on Mental Health America, and the girl was basically talking about she felt, because she also didn't grow up around a bunch of black people, she kind of came from affluency as well, and she was trying to explain to her husband one day why she didn't feel black enough. She was like, well, I don't necessarily feel, black enough because, I just don't spend a lot of time around it. I'm not really ingrained or engulfed in the culture like that. And it made me think, and I was like, man, there have been times in my life, because obviously we're Hispanic and black. Yeah. Our mom's Hispanic, our dad's black, and love family. I've always been a family person, but there's the Hispanic side of the family, and then there's the black side of the family, and obviously they're different. And there are times where I don't feel like a fraud, but there are times where I feel like I'm trying to find my identity with both. Like I want to pay.
You feel
homage
like
to
you
both.
can't be both.
Like I want to pay homage to both cultures. Like I enjoy tacos and I'm not trying to be stereotypical or racist or anything like that. I like tacos. I like enchiladas. I like menudo. I like those things, but I don't like chitlins. You know, I just don't like that type of stuff. But the stereotypical black food like chicken, you know, watermelon. I like those things just because they're good. But you know, there are just those times where I'm trying to fit in with both sides because you know we would go for mom and then we would go with dad. And like when we go dad, it's like you know all of our black people, and then we go back with mom, and it's like now all of our Hispanic people, and like trying to balance those, it's just different because they're just two different cultures, you know, like it's like night and day.
You know, I think I want to say it's probably a little bit easier on us because I think we also, you know, we have everybody has their own personal journey, their own personal life, their own personal struggles in their life that they hold.
Yeah.
And I think that for us, I want to feel like it was a little bit easier because I think our family relations were better.
Yeah.
So no one was necessarily excluded, right? Like the Mexican side never said, "Oh, none of the black side can come hang out," and the black side never said none of the Mexican side. There was no like no interracial conflict.
There was no divide.
Yeah, so I feel like it was a little bit easier of a transition, but I still felt a difference, and I'll say that because I think we lean more to resonate with our black side just because we went with our dad. And so since we grew up with our dad, that's just the culture we were around. That's just how we were raised and brought up. Versus if our parents would have not got divorced, then I think sometimes like, I don't know, maybe we would have came at it from a different angle. I don't know.
I kind of feel like we'd have probably still been the same because like.
But the reason I say that is because like the reason I feel so distant from my Hispanic side is just because I don't understand the language. Maybe if our parents never got divorced, maybe I would have learned a little bit more because you know mom would have been around a little bit more. But I never really. Maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe she still would have taught me. But I never really learned the language, so there was always a disconnect because like when they're talking, I don't know what they're saying. I have no clue what they're talking about. So I'm already an outsider in my own culture because I don't understand the language. Versus, you know, I go to my black side of the family and it's like, okay, I know what we're talking about. I understand the jokes. I know the lingo. This is just everyday normal stuff, right? So I feel like that's one of the reasons that I felt more distance and like I felt like, if you would call it more of an imposter on my Hispanic side, just because I didn't speak the language. And then when you can't, like when everyone else is talking, you're left outside. So you're an outsider. Or an imposter. Like you're not in the group really because everyone else is talking but you don't know what they're saying. So I kind of that's sort of like that's for where it's say for me.
You think it's more of like a
it was more understanding the culture and the language and being able to communicate. I think it's communication too. Like I was reading the same article and it just seemed to me like I understood what she was saying, but I think it was more that she didn't know how to communicate. And I think that's what a lot of it boils down to communication. Can you communicate with people? Can you get something across? Like prime example, like Eminem is not black. He doesn't try to be black, but he just raps to how he feels. But he can communicate and resonate with some black people. I was watching, it was an interview a while back, and the game was like, yeah, if I had if I had to do a battle with M, I wouldn't want to see him. M is cold, and a lot of people would give Eminem credit because he was just a really good technical mechanical rapper. Like he could really get in there. So even though he was white, he got some form of respect. Now there's gonna be some who don't respect him, but the reason I like Mike is Eminem because he never really tried. I'm not trying to be black. I'm not trying to invade culture. I'm just speaking to my jacked up life and how I feel. And if some of the things I say and the way I say them resonate with you, that's cool. And I said, I think that he could communicate through his own life and his own feelings in a way that he raps. It can resonate with a lot of black people. Some people might feel it, some people might not. And that's how I think it boils down to communication. So like when you see Emmy, like, oh, that's just that white dude is just trying to invade and he just try. No, you just like, I understand because I feel his pain and I can understand how he's telling it to me. Yeah. So I think that it's like when you speak to me, do I understand what you're saying? Can I resonate with it? And if I can't, I'm automatically putting you out, and I'm gonna kind of shut you out, whether it's through. Because a lot of times it can be, it may not be like a verbal. A lot of times it can be like that physical shutout where it's like you can tell when someone's physically awkward and they're uncomfortable around you and you feel that distance. So she might be black and it's like, I come from a different place where I was around more Caucasians. So now this is how I'm more comfortable in there, even though I'm black. So when I go around other black people, I can't necessarily get my point across, but I still am black and I want to get my point across. But other people are like, oh, well, we're not feeling you. And now she's ostracized by her own people. So I think it's like,
I think it does come down to comfort, like you open up around the people that you're more comfortable around. Like I'm willing to be more vulnerable and to express more myself if I know that I'm comfortable with you and I can kind of relate to you. And, as we were growing up, I didn't necessarily feel a sense of confusion as like I didn't know who I was because my only issue came from when I was trying to embrace both sides. Like I wanted to be a part of like the Hispanic side as much as I wanted to be a part of the black side. But obviously I just felt more comfortable with the black side because that's the side that I spent more time around. And you know how like they're just more lively. They're more lively, they're more animated. It's just like, I just felt comfortable being around that. And I just feel like with my personality, obviously I grew up on 90s television. So I got Fresh Prince, Jamie Foxx show, Martin. I grew up on these shows. So that's kind of what tailored my personality a little bit. Like, I got a little Martin. I probably got more Jamie Foxx than anybody because that's just that's my favorite show. And so it's funny.
And so if people don't know, I don't know if your people know about the Fox thing, but I just always assumed that was just from you just like Jamie Foxx. Cause like that was kind of your animal. I was like,
so that's something different. Like,
so I was like, so people don't know, like this is a Jamie Foxx fan. Like he loves Jamie. He loves a lot of people. He loves Jamie Foxx. So
if like Zale is here, but for me, Jamie Foxx is right there because I grew up on him and like
and see that Taylor me that's important to understand. Like you love Jamie Foxx, you love Denzel. Yeah. I do too, and those are like. But see, that's the culture we raised in. Like I loved seeing those shows because. And I think it's important to speak on that too, because one of the reasons I loved like Family Matters and stuff like that, or Fresh Prince is because like says, hey, you can be a successful black person, you can be educated and still be part of the culture. You can still be
push it forward. Like you can still be in tune with everything and still kind of be like, I guess the word down, I guess. So I'm right there with you, and like I said, mine didn't come from this confusion. I was just trying to fit into both of them and like trying to embrace both sides of what kind of built me. And I think it helped out that our family was just like you said, like everybody was inclusive. Like we were all kind of like everybody was open with coming to the dinners, going to the family functions, the whole thing. And I think one of the biggest things that helped, because I think both of our grandmas were the same. Like, they were different, but there's Grandma Cha-Cha and there's Grandma Teeter. But they were both named Mary. I don't know if that's coincidence. Yeah, they both named Mary, but I mean, like, they were very, very similar, but at the same time they were different.
Yeah. And
I think that kind of helped bridge that gap. At least for me it did, because I know Grandma Cha-Cha was like,
well, that's what we spent a lot of time.
Yeah,
like when we were with our moms, most of the time we were with Grandma Cha-Cha. Yeah. And when we were with Pops, most of the time we were at Granny, because after school, we Pops was at work, so we go there and we spend a lot of time there until Pops got off. So we spent time, that's where we spent a lot of our time as kids, because we were with the grandparents while parents at work. So I think that shapes us too, and I think that we got a lot of those influences.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest ones. Just like having those two grandmas to bridge that gap and to kind of like have that togetherness. Like they weren't like at each other's throats. Like they were always like very respectful, always on like kind of the same page. And their personalities were similar, but they were still different.
But I think that actually helps feed and transition to the second topic. Like how you said they were respectful to each other, and I think that a lot of times that's what is needed to hear someone else's voice, because, like I said, the second part of this is like not being, let's say, black enough to talk about it, and it's like, okay, there's these certain issues, but it's like, but you're only half, so you can't really tell me about this.
Yeah.
And I don't.
You can't really fully understand.
You can't fully understand and relate, and I think it's kind of a weird topic, because I think that if we have that respect and mutual respect and say, hey, we do have some differences, but we also have some common grounds too.
We're still people.
We're still people, and I think that this isn't something that like we don't feel.
Yeah.
And I understand the sentiment, because I think when it comes to when we get into this topic, I think what it comes to is more so an issue with, I think, colorism. I think that's what feeds into the you're not black enough. I don't think because no one's gonna say just because you're half black you don't understand what it means to be a black person. I think it becomes an issue of how we view colorism, because it's like, okay, yeah, you're black, but say you're light skinned. Not everyone. You can't generalize that every mixed person, mixed people, they look different. But for the most part, it's being mixed is associated with a lighter tone. So
your life is somehow better.
So that relates to certain privileges. So now it's like, okay, I have certain privileges because I'm a lighter skin, or your hair is a different grade. So you don't necessarily understand what it's like to be full black, which was weird to me, because I was like, I never really saw it like that at first, because like Granny Teeter is full black, but she lighter than us.
Yeah, she looks like maybe albino or something. Like her skin's just like real. She's bright skin, like very bright.
She's bright, but she's full black.
Yeah,
her mom's black, her dad was black. She's full black, but she's lighter. She's lighter than we are.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't understand it at first. The whole colorism thing, because I was like, my grandma's full black. She's just light skinned.
Yeah.
So why would someone look at her and say, well, you don't understand what it's like to be black, even though you're fully black?
Yeah.
So that's why I think we have to come at this from different angles, and we have to understand and have more respect and say, hey, what's really the root of the problem here? Yeah. So I mean, what do you think about this?
I agree. Like, I think that it comes down to an empathetic and a respect standpoint. So like, just like we were talking about earlier, a couple months ago, the whole George Floyd thing happened, and I'm not trying to say that this is all white people, but I had a white person, I ain't gonna name names, but they came up to me and they said, he's like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay with everything that happened? And at first I didn't know how to take that, because I was like, the fact that you're asking me that, this isn't like a black people problem. Like, Are you okay? Because remember, this didn't just happen to black people. This happened to us as a whole. Like, everyone is involved in this. So it's not like this is only a black people problem. Like, I saw the same thing that you saw, and I felt a certain way. So I'm expecting you to feel that way, because this isn't like it's only, oh, this is your thing. Like, no, like, this is everybody's.
As a person, you should just be like, this is fucked up. So it should make you mad too.
Yeah, like I was confused as to why you thought that I would be more mad than you. When I'm looking at you, I'm like, you should be just as mad and outraged about this thing as I am, because you saw the same video that I saw. So I was just like, why do you think that I'll be more mad? It's like, well, the whole Black Lives Matter thing. I'm like, and so how do you feel? Like, he's like, well, I think it's messed up. I'm like, yeah, but like, so you think that I should be more upset than you because I'm black? But remember, this is a people issue. This isn't just like a black people issue. And that really made me open my eyes. And I was like, okay, just having that one conversation, it was eye-opening for me, because I'm like, hey, there are people out there that look at it this way, that when they see something, it doesn't resonate with them, not only because they're not, like, I guess in the circle, or it doesn't directly affect them, but because they don't, I don't want to use the word don't care, but because that's lack of a picture, they don't care because it didn't directly affect them. They don't really seem to care. They seem to think, well, that's your problem. I'm not really worried about it. And that's what I think the issue is, because as people, you should have felt something about that. Like, that should have made you feel a certain way. And you don't have to be a black person to be empathetic, or a Mexican person to be empathetic. People should have a level of empathy about themselves to be able to relate to the trials and tribulations of others, just so we can have that understanding.
And see, I think that this is a hard topic too, because I think it has different layers to it. I think that's one of the layers, but I think another layer is that human factor, where a lot of times, and I'm guilty of, I think we're all guilty of it though, onto some level, because if it's not happening to you, you try to try to distance yourself.
You sweep it under the rug.
Because, like I said, off topic, but there's a lot of, I think you try to out of sight, out of mind stuff. Because prior to being in the military, I didn't really know how bad, for example, child and sex trafficking was. And it wasn't until I got into the military and, getting briefs and learning all this stuff, it's like, man, this stuff is really bad. Why didn't I know about this? Or why didn't any of this come to light to me before on a lot of the things that go on? And I think it's because we try to, it's not happening to me, I'm not going to be concerned about it, it's not in my scope. Versus when something happens to you, then you're like, now it's important to me. So people were like, so dude, I don't know if he might have been out of pocket. He might have been out of pocket. He might not have been. He might have just been like, oh man, I see this is happening to a black person. You must be really expecting. Whereas if that would happen to a white person, he probably would have felt some time. But not even necessarily white. If that would have been his cousin,
he would have felt a lot more strongly about it than he maybe put on, because now it directly affects him.
Now it directly
this is
affects
so sad, and I can't believe
But he didn't see it as directly affecting him because he associated it as, okay, this is a black person. This doesn't affect me. So you must be really mad. And you're like, okay, say homeboy. I expected you would be upset too. And if you don't, now I have to question, like, where's your mindset at? So
just as a person, but like, I'm not trying to say that person's a good or a bad person. Like I said, it just surprised me that was the question, and that was kind of like the viewpoint of how they kind of saw it, and I was just like, but I don't like to just condemn people right from the jump. I'm just like, you know what? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. You can feel the way you want to feel about things, because I feel very strongly about certain things. But I can't expect everyone to share that, and that's okay, because, like I said, we just all come from different backgrounds. Like, growing up, I didn't spend a lot of time around white people. Like, honestly, I just didn't. Like, they went to my school, and I was aware of them, but, like, my first real time spending just like real time around white people was when I left for the military. Then it was like a whole new world for me. I didn't even know what dipping was, and the dude walked up to me one time. He's like, hey man, you got a dip? I was like, ooh. Like, ooh.
Okay, hold on.
Like, okay, ooh. Like, because I didn't know what that. He was like, no, I mean a dip. Like, I was like, what is that? Like, he's like a dip, and
I didn't know what a dip was until I got in the military too.
Yeah,
and it's like, who does this?
Yeah,
I mean, I know more than white people do it, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, like, why you want to? That's to me. It was like, but no, I didn't know what that was. And then the more time I spent in the military, the more time I spent around people, and like I got to see like it from a different viewpoint. But I honestly made some of my best friends in the military, and like one of my best friends is white. Like one of my very best friends, who I'm probably one of the closest people I'm with right now, is white, and he's probably not somebody that I would have ever associated with outside the military, but circumstances brought us together, and he just ended up being a cool dude. We ended up connecting. We just ended up being real cool, and like we ended up opening up to each other. Like, and come to find out, he's a lot more like me than I would have originally given him credit for. Like originally, I wouldn't have thought that he was anything like me. Come to find out, he's got a brother named Nate. Like, he's got a mom, he's got a dad, he drinks water, he breathes air, like, he eats food. Like, we're more alike than people would like to put on.
Well, see, I think that goes into kind of like the next bullet point is with, like, word association and, like, how we define certain traits. Like, you were just saying, he was just a good dude, right? And I think that that should be more of the metric. Is a person a good human versus
the color of the skin,
because of the color of the skin or their type of hair or the way that they talk about things. They everyone is going to be different, and we have different situations because we all have a different path through life. Yeah. And whereas my path might have been rocky, your path might have been smooth, but along those two diverging paths, there's probably something that there's similarities that we might have encountered, right? Like one of the things like I had to deal with was abuse as a child. Like I was sexually abused as a child. Even though my path is rocky, your path might be smooth, but somewhere around the long way, we both might have been a predator, and now we can relate on that, even though we're from two different aspects of life. So that's one of the personal battles I deal with, right? So I think that if we can find more of those things versus finding the differences in our look and in the way we address certain things, I think that that'll be more beneficial for us as a people. Like,
and I agree. I think we'll be better off when we kind of break down some of these barriers that we've created and that we continue to kind of push forward. Like, I've always been myself, and I've never been ashamed for being me. Like, I like comic books, I like to read, I like video games, I like movies, I like all these things, and like, even when we were growing up, I like Star Wars. You used to say that was stupid. Like, you used to like be like, oh, you like Star Wars? You fucking nerd. Like, how you gonna like Star Wars? Like, all the things that I liked when I was younger, you like now. Because you're like, oh, Dragon Ball Z is so cool.
And see,
before you thought I was lame, you thought I was stupid.
I thought it was lame. And this is why, this goes back to that personal association where it's like, you know, like those personal attitudes, how we view things. There was a time I was like, man, I can't hang. I love him, but it would be annoying to be around you because I'm like, man, like at the time, I'm into females going out partying, hanging out, and kicking it. Like I didn't play video games until I was 25. I didn't play video games. I didn't own a system. I think we might have had a PlayStation. When dad, I think we might have shared one. Like, I wasn't really into games, though. Like, but I didn't actually really play video games until I was 25. So prior to that, like, I wasn't even trying to hear it. You're lame, you're nerd. And so I was like, man, Jordan, the stuff he likes is lame. Yeah. I can't hang on him. I love him, but I can't. It's just I don't want to. And I didn't understand until I got older enough. That's why I said it's all about we hit different stages in the course of our lives. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, now I get it. Because some of the stuff that you might have done in youth, I didn't hit that youthful period until I was like older.
Yeah.
Because I never wanted to experience it. I was more on that like I'm gonna party out and do this crazy stuff, right? So now I think we can gel more and there's more of an understanding because now I kind of get some of the things that you're saying. But it wasn't until I gained those personal experiences that I was able to relate more to some of the things you're saying. And I think that was a flaw that I wish I would have. I feel like there was a lot of years that we missed together.
Yeah. But that was a mindset kind of thing because we were just in different points. Like,
and we're brothers, and we're talking about how.
These are two family members doing this. Like, imagine people who aren't family
and from different races
and don't know anything about the other person. Like, I know nothing about you, you know nothing about me. I just have this perception of what I think that you are, or how I think you to be, and that's what I'm going to take forward because in my mind, that's what it is. And I don't necessarily agree with it, and I think that sometimes we perpetuate stereotypes unknowingly, or maybe subconsciously because that's just what we've been taught and conditioned to do. But I think when people become more comfortable with being themselves and in their skin, they can kind of like step out of those boxes. Like, I was comfortable being myself and I didn't care. Like, I read all the Harry Potter books. I was Star Wars, Lupe Fiasco. I liked all that stuff. And I didn't care because I was like, these are just the things that I like and I will continue to like them whether you like them or not.
I was thinking of a prime example of this because I didn't see it. And what we're talking about it now, but I didn't even address. I didn't even kind of address it into myself until now. What am I? Almost 36, like that. So once you let me listen to that Joyce Warner or what?
Joyner Lucas.
Yeah, Joyner Lucas. Okay, so I was like, but that Will song, and so I was listening to it, and then after I heard it, I started looking more into it. And then how he was like talking to Will Smith's son, I was like, and then I started looking more at Will Smith's son. It's like, where is he at? And he was fucking weird.
Yeah, and got his own. He's got his own.
He was weird. Yeah. He almost looked like he wasn't a black American as I pictured in my mind, and he looked like more than like he looked like he was like one of those like English. Yeah. Like he was like on a more of an English.
I'm done with you.
So I was like, so I had to catch myself because this is what we're talking about, how we view people and we put them in that box. Yeah. I found myself doing it
in my head of what a black person is supposed to be.
To me, I was like, man, you ain't even really black. And I had to catch myself because I was doing it too. Yeah. And then I had to say, okay, you know what? He's on a different journey. I respect it. Yeah. And I'm not gonna put him in a box.
And I think that's what we want.
But I did it too. This is what we're talking about. Like,
we want to put people in those boxes so we can kind of like understand. Because like I want you in this box so I can classify you and I can be like, okay, it makes sense to me. But like not everyone is gonna make sense because you don't have the understanding to take them as they are. Like the eyes can only understand.
But he's okay with being who he is. And you gotta recognize his parents are two of the most well-known black people out there. Jada?
Yeah.
Will? Like they're known. Like everyone knows who Will and Jada are. But even still, and then where they come from, like Will came from Philly, and it's like, but his son is completely different. Yeah. And when you look at him, like, you don't look like how I would picture you. But I wouldn't go to him and say you don't have a voice because your vibe isn't fitting our narrative, even though you're black. I'm not gonna include you in this because he has a voice. He's just a unique person. Now I'm gonna understand that. I'm gonna accept because he's unique, and
I think that we like just as a culture we've come a long way because I think we're becoming more understanding of different personalities and different people. Like we're becoming more willing to accept people as how they are, and like, you know, maybe I don't necessarily agree with the things that you do, but
that's right, because I did not accept fucking skinny jeans, and it seemed like everybody's wearing fucking skinny jeans now. I thought that was,
but it's kind of opening up, and everybody is
changing culture.
Yeah, like everybody's kind of becoming more understanding and opening up, and I think that this is a topic that I think needs to be talked about more, because we have to start to break down those barriers and to take people out of those boxes and let people be their own thing. Like, I am my own person, you are your own person. You want to compare, when you meet me, you want to, like, I ain't never met nobody like you, like, but you want to group people together like, oh, he's this kind of person or he's that kind of person. But sometimes when I meet people, they be like, man, Joe, I ain't never met nobody like you, man. Like, you know, you're doing X, Y, and Z, and you talk about these things, but you still keep it this way. And I was like, well, I'm just being who I am. Like, I'm not trying to be anything different. I'm just trying to be the person that I've always been, and like, I enjoy it. So I think when we stop trying to group people and like start dealing with people on more of an individual basis, I think that we can push forward the culture a lot better.
And I think one of the most important things is really, like, in closing it up about moving forward the culture, is just like how we articulate ourselves and not being afraid of having a vocabulary. And one of the things I think, to me, kind of made okay is, like, if you think about it, you know, rest in peace, Chad, but that Black Panther, because, like, and I think it's important, because I think what Black Panther did was it gave, like, young Black people, like, that superhero. Because when growing up, I never remembered, like, a Black superhero figure.
That was prominent.
Yeah,
like, we had Static Shock or something.
Yeah,
like,
it was always Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, and you never really could relate. So I was kind of glad for that, because when you look at T'Challa, he's a prince, king, educated, and you like, okay, how you doing, king? Now, I know a lot of people say, how you doing, queen? How you doing, king? And I think that's the level we need to be on. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? Because you have a better vocabulary, I'm gonna shut you out. Nah, like, you're a king, you're a queen. You're up there. You know, we elevating.
Yeah.
And the elevation.
If I meet you and you're kind of above me, I need to raise my level. Like, if you're using words that I don't, like, I'm the type of person, like, if we're having a conversation, if you say something I don't understand, I'll either ask you about it, or I'll write the word down and I'll look it up later, so I can then understand what it is you're trying. Like, if I don't know, because sometimes people just don't know what you're saying, and they take it. First of all, I don't know what you're saying, so I'm gonna take it as disrespect.
Yeah.
Watch your tone, help me with the sale. But that's, I feel like sometimes we run into that language barrier, and maybe it's not so much like a cultural thing, but maybe it's just like the way that we interact with people, and we just don't have that understanding, because we have this idea of what we want people to be, and if they don't fit into that, then it's like, now I'm all discombobulated and I don't know how to take you anymore.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think it's more of a educational system problem, where it's like a failure in the education system, where it's not preparing us.
Well, we got to jump on that, and then that's got to be it's because
that's gonna be its own thing. But I think that
can't get too deep in the weeds on that, because this show will be messed around, be 3 hours long.
I'll tell you, but like, I think that's it. We need better preparation in the community, and so we can teach our kids how to communicate on a higher level, and being able to articulate themselves and speak with confidence. And then I think we'll get less defensive. I think that comment, like, I'm gonna just shout and act crazy, is because it's a defense mechanism, where it's like, I don't know how to come at this. I want to engage in dialogue, but I don't know how to engage. And so in fear of looking like I'm ignorant and stupid and making people look down on me because I'm strong and I want to be tough, now I'm going to revert to just lashing out so that I save face, and then I just cut all dialogue off. And now I'm in a safe zone, which I think that we say, hey, how do we come to a point where we can have that dialogue? How do we shoot with each other? Be like, hey, now we on the same page. And I think that's important, being able to communicate and have those intellectual conversations, like we watch them do, like Dr. Omar being that black scholar, like where are we putting our time into, like how are we educating ourselves and you know, uplifting, like, you know, saying, like uplifting black people. I think it's important. So,
and I agree. Like, and I really like that we're getting back to the show, because obviously we started this show as like a support group and to kind of get out some of the way we, you know, the things that we feel. Yeah. But as we kind of continue the show, we want to do more like education, like maybe talk about some of those topics that we don't normally talk about, and kind of like try to break that barrier and to break that wall, to open up that book, so we can, you know, we can all start reading the same language. We're like, let's open up this understanding. Let's have those uncomfortable conversations, you know.
And sometimes they are going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes we're going to have those open dialogues to where, like, these are things that people don't necessarily want to talk about, but we're going to talk about them, and I think that's important. And I think we'll get into more on the next show. So I think we kind of got our points out and kind of what we were thinking, and if we need to expand upon it later, we'll expand upon it later if we have anything else that comes to mind. But
if you guys got any, you know, questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to talk about offline, as per the norm, you can always I guess him Monday and Wednesday you can talk to him, but
that's Monday and Wednesday one class.
You know, me, you can text me, DM me, whatever. Like, I just like to keep an open dialogue so we can keep these type of conversations going, because, you know, Black History Month isn't just a month. You know, Women's History Month isn't just a month. Like, Hispanic Heritage Month isn't just 1 month. Like,
now I will say I don't believe in Black History Month. Yeah, like, I think it's just why do I gotta be relegated to 1 month?
All these should be year round. It shouldn't be just like, oh, you get a month. Like, all these things should be year round. Just like there's no White History Month because we celebrate that 365 days a year. Let's just start to kind of incorporate the same things with all cultures. That way we kind of get a better understanding, and we can kind of, you know, we can be better off as a people for it. But I think this was a good show. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you guys tune in next time here at the MadHouse.
See y'all next time.
Thanks for tuning in with us today. Hopefully we were able to give you something you can use and take forward into your day. If you want to reach out to us with any questions, comments, concerns, or even topic requests, links are in the description. Join us back here again next week in the MadHouse. We appreciate you and where you are in your journey in life. And always remember,